Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I feel like a senator or something. I'm giving testimony. But anyway, just to introduce you to this amazing, exciting panel. I would say we've got an incredibly diverse amount of speakers from completely different backgrounds, from the BBC to working on platforms like TikTok and gaming studios. So I think it's going to be a really exciting one for you this afternoon. And what we really want to do is give you all takeaways of what you can do to promote your shows, even with limited budget. So near the end, I'm going to give each of the panelists a challenge whereby I will ask them what will they do if they only had a 10,000 budget. 10,000, yeah, £10,000 budget, and they had to promote a show tomorrow. So I'm going to introduce my name first. I'm Alvin Hussey. I'm Senior Business Development Manager at Super Awesome. We help our clients, many people in the room today, reach families and kids throughout the kids' media ecosystem safely and effectively. And as we all know in this room, it's become much more hyper-fragmented, it's not even a word, hyper-fragmented than ever before. So really excited to host and moderate the panel today. As you probably realised, this isn't Emily Horgan. This is someone completely different. She is here today. Unfortunately, her voice, she hasn't just pulled out, her voice is actually gone. So Rachel has done an amazing job of stepping in the very last second. So this should be very interesting. I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself. Oh, and why you are here today at CMC.
Okay, so I'm Rachel Bardale. I'm from BBC, 20 years, and now I've set up a consultancy where I consult on digital with media companies and work with some massive brands and some really small companies as well. Why am I here? I'm here because I was meant to be swanning up and down execing this session. So I perfected my exec swagger, but now I am exec producer because Steve Smith, bless him, he's not well. And then Emily walked in with no voice. So I am now here, totally unprepared to say things, so I will try my best with 3 hats on.
Oh, brilliant, yeah, definitely.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? We've been told to project our voices. I'm Emily Barwise, I'm the head of programming for kids and family at BBC Studios. I've been with the BBC 9 years, before that I was at Fremantle, so I've always been in the trenches with the teams on digital and brands, building the brands and growing our fans on social and digital platforms. My team's remit is building fandoms for the kids and family brands on YouTube and across socials, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and website and CRM as well. Over the years together, we've launched Bluey outside of Australia, and we built Hey Dougie to be the heritage brand it is now. And so from why I'm here today is hopefully you can get out of me in this session some practical real-world examples of what's worked for us, and hopefully get some ideas that might inspire you for your brands.
Hi everyone, I'm John Mason. I wear a couple of hats. For 25 years I've been building sort of digital interactive content for big brands, taking their money and doing sort of wonderful things with it. I now have my own TV show, Stand and Ground, which will be on air in Milkshake in the spring of next year. And I think for some of you who understand like how difficult it is to get a show made, you have to give up a lot of your IP, a lot of your money. So I'm on the panel because I have none. So I've spent, so it's sort of the tables have been turned a little bit. So I'm going to learn as much from today as hopefully as you guys do. But I do have some practical tips, things to start thinking about when you're in production. And if you're looking at me and thinking, Jesus Christ, Guy Garvey from Elbows let himself go. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Kat Carr. I spend a lot of my day working with wizards and dogs and small blue animated creatures. I'm a creative director at an entertainment agency called Think Jam and have been on the front lines of fandoms for the last almost 15 years. And I'm here really to help you make fun content for not just kids, not just caregivers, but actually making you a bit more of a household name. And that's what I'm really passionate about. So excited to be here with you.
Amazing. So let's kick things off. So the first question is, obviously the panel's called Promote This. So let's say you've created a show. Now what? What do you do? Emily, I'm going to go to you first. It's great there's only one Emily. It makes life a little bit easier because I was going to come up with different nicknames. But yes.
Well, I think this is a really interesting one. So you have all your content, and what do you do with it? And I think Yolanda touched upon this in the keynote last night when she said when she was making Band Jam, she didn't think about the fact that her show might be outside of the living room and end up in schools, for example. So I think when you're creating your show, think about where that could end up, and think of the fans and the destination for that content just outside of the living room. Think about how you can package it up for the target audience, and what your show is about, really. So is it relatable? Does it talk directly to parents like Bluey does, with sort of those relatable parenting moments and the humour? Does it have those sort of hooks for music and pop culture references like Hey Dougie? Or is it a really strong, fun, educational, standalone show that kids are going to love and parents are going to be relieved that their kids are watching? And how can you package it up and help parents to understand what that show is about? Because ultimately, parents are the key for your content. Having fandoms in households, they're the content. They make the decisions over content. They make purchase decisions as well. So it's really important to not forget parents, not leave them behind, and bring them along with you. And then I think also as well, when you're creating the content, always have that eye on the final destination. So while you are pulling together your animation, your graphics, etc., have an eye of what would be good to keep for later in the production process.
Yeah, I mean, I can come in on that. So obviously, my show airs in late spring next year, and having worked with lots of brands, they'll come to you and say, hey, we want to make a really cool game, or we want to make this interactive thing. And I'll say, great, okay. So we've looked at like season 3, episode 24. There's a really cool map that we want to use for this thing. Can we have that? I don't have that. And it's buried somewhere in production. So what I've been quite mindful of, and I think if you're in production or you're thinking about what you're going to do with your show, start to think really carefully about the digital assets that you want to extract from that show really, really early on. So concept art's brilliant. That can be used a lot on social media and on YouTube. Your voiceover stuff and your music, make sure that you've got all the tracks for it. All this sort of stuff kind of gets lost during a production, and it's so painful to try and extract that back out of a production once it's finished, because everyone's having parties and cake and the show's made, and actually the poor old studios that you want to talk to that are going to help you, they need those assets, and you don't have them anymore, or they're locked up with your creative partner somewhere. So I'm sort of stepping a little bit back from the show's done, what next? It's like, actually, I'm making the show. Like, what can I do that's going to make actually promoting the show when it's finished a lot simpler for me, and I'm not going to have to retrospectively go back. And the other thing is that as you're in development, lots of really fantastic ideas will occur to you that you can use on social platforms, that you just, you need to put a pin in it, write that idea down and save that asset down somewhere, and make sure you've got somewhere where that's all saved, because as soon as your show's ready, you can just dive into that treasure trove of stuff that you've saved off.
That definitely would contribute to like the longevity of your show as well. Like, I think all of us, you want to live beyond season 1, series 1. You want to have that existence. And I think if you are investing the time and thinking about your assets early on and thinking about how that would live beyond a kid's audience or a caregiver audience, and actually how it becomes almost like if you've got your map enthusiasts, your cartographers, like you've got an audience there, I think it's really a nice way of pulling in those kind of brand moments for your show.
Yeah, so just to echo what everyone's saying, I would say, and I know there's people in this room that I've banged on for years about this, if you've made a show and you haven't, and you're saying what next, you've absolutely failed. Like, you should be absolutely at development stage thinking about your not just show, but your brand, your idea as a whole ecosystem, because you will be missing out massively. If you think about what you can get the best of YouTube, you might want to bake in some learning into your show or your brand, or you want to do like a lovely couple of nursery rhymes. Songs really do well on YouTube, so you might want to bake all that in. And then when you think about, other platforms, you might want to add in some parent jokes, some parent nods, some little bits of, I know that, Bluey's done this brilliantly just because, and Hey Dougie and all the other shows that are big, but, you might want to just nod towards that just so you can create this little parent fandom thing, weird thing going on social media. And then all the other platforms as well. You might want to add some like game playthroughs and things like that. So you've got to think about that right at the beginning of conception. I know I've said this for years. So it's okay, the idea that you go through commission, you get a show commissioned, all the rights are baked in, and then all of a sudden it's like, there you go, that just go and promote that. You're like, I know, absolutely, it's horrifying sometimes to have that. So I think that's yeah.
Could I just come in just quickly on that? So
Yeah.
for the show that we're making, the budget's very tight on the show. We don't have any budget for marketing, so we're very clear when we started making the show. We have an 11-minute episode that at least 1 minute of that episode is absolutely 100% carvable out of the show and can sit across quite a few different social channels. It's not contextually specific to the show. The way our format works, it works for us, but it's like we were very, very early on. We're not going to have lots of money for YouTube content. How can we use the budget we've already got in production to make YouTube content that is part of the production, that we don't have to go and remake it? So definitely have, if that works for the format of your show, definitely think about that, because, that's just gold. It's just being produced anyway, and you can just lift it and stick it where you need to put it.
And John, you talked about platforms. You just talked about YouTube, but how do you, it's a question for all the panelists actually, how do you decide on the different platforms? Because Kat, I know you're doing I've just watched it recently, some amazing content on TikTok. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think you should approach each platform individually, right? Like, I think long gone are the days of going, right, we're going to get it everywhere, all the same thing. Like, you've got different audiences, you've got different communities there. And the channel that Alvin's speaking about is our lovely Smurf friends. We actually went for a really kind of wild card idea with this, where on Instagram we have the Smurf Village, and it's from the POV of the lovely Smurfs. But on TikTok, we decided to launch TikTok's new daddy, Papa Smurf. And it's kind of a wild card, but I think, that wouldn't have worked so well on Meta. It's like very much in the space of the trends that were happening on TikTok. And, it was leaning into those conversations, those things that were already there. There's a massive Gargamel fandom there as well, if you're curious. But I do think, approaching each platform for the niches that they have and really embracing those is definitely an approach we've taken and seen success with.
Because Emily, there's quite a lot. Bluey has quite an active TikTok channel.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, and I think with the different platforms, you have to think about your content and is it right for that particular platform. With TikTok, that unlocks this amazing additional audience of sort of young adults who aren't kids and aren't grown-ups with kids. They just loved Bluey. They found it very healing to watch, and they would discover the show that way. So you can have some really real surprising moments with the different platforms. I think when you're sort of selecting the content to go on them, think about how you can organically grow your reach as well. So partnering with people, leveraging more of a presence, tapping into trends and seasonal moments, that's really key as well.
And John, what do you think about that? Because organic social is quite challenging, isn't it?
I did say something controversial earlier. I think organic's dead.
There you go.
That's my view on it. I ran a diversity and inclusion campaign about 4 years ago called The Secret Story Drawer, and we were doing amazing, reaching our target audience on all the right platforms. And our Instagram changed its algorithm, pretty much killed the campaign, to be honest with you. So if we're talking about promoting it and you've not got a lot of budget, then some of the panel will clearly disagree with me. But I just think on Instagram particularly, I think organic's really difficult to do. I just think it's hard.
I do think it is a challenge. I'm definitely the organic is alive, in the sense that I think, being playful, I really believe test and learn, playful and proven. Like, it does mean experimentation. It does mean that you're looking at the engagement with your content. Also think the approach to social in general, like, long gone are the days of calendars a month ahead. Like, we need to be thinking on an editorial basis with quite a lot of the channels as well, to be able to go, okay, right, this is working right now, and let's learn from this and make new content that fits with that audience there.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go on.
Go on, you go first.
No, just quickly. Just to echo that really. Organics, it's hard. It is really hard, but you've got to just keep trying and really try different things. Like A/B test your thumbnails and A/B test the content and titles and you can some people are using AI now to do that. Not that I do that. I don't do that. So it's just about really trying different things and seeing what lands and then carrying on and then learn again because it all changes. And it is a real art. It is an art form. But I think the marriage of organic with campaigns, like really paid campaigns bursting out from them is just a really good formula that I think works.
And just to add to that as well, so with platforms, I think, especially if you're going organic, look at the different platform features that are launching, because usually those are they're the ones to sort of bet on. So for example, with YouTube Shorts is massive. That's actually been fantastic for the kids and family channels that we run. YouTube Shorts is in the top 5 for driving of traffic to our YouTube channels, and it came out of nowhere like 18 months ago or something. On social, Instagram Reels is brilliant for boosting discovery of your brand to people who aren't already following you. And there's loads of features in there like polls, etc. So you can get your audience engaging and really sort of telling you what they want to see more of. So we did that recently with Hey Dougie. We asked fans to tell us, do you prefer the Stick song or the Enid song? And so they voted.
Stick song.
Actually, who thinks the Stick song should have won? Put your hand up.
Stick.
Oh, bloody hell, everyone's gone for it. And what was the other song?
Enid song.
Enid song. Come on, there's got to be a few Enid songs. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to join you just because.
Thank you, Connor
There
Johnson.
you go.
Connor.
And basically, fans came out 50-50, so the results were 50-50, and we were like, well, why make you choose? So we did a mashup of the Stick song and the Enid song into one gorgeous Halloween-themed song for Hey Dougie, and that got like 2 million views within the first couple of weeks on our YouTube channel, and the engagement was really high on social as well. So definitely new platform features is key. And I mentioned sort of tapping into seasonal moments. We just had Glastonbury, and I can see the CBeebies team here. So we worked really closely with those guys on getting Dougie to Glastonbury, and so did this, what CBeebies works on the stunt, getting idols to cover the Stick song, and Lucy and our team who's over there provided the glasses for them to wear. So it was a proper collaboration, leveraging access and sort of pan BBC reach, but ultimately managed to get Dougie at Glastonbury, got idols chanting the Stick song, and it's a really funny thing because that isn't necessarily aimed just at kids, but we saw social go wild. So the video views were up like 5,000% on Instagram, and engagement was up by over 1,000% as well. And even though we didn't put that content on YouTube, we put other sorts of musical festival content on there, sort of giving a nod to Glastonbury, a couple of crafts as well. And we saw just in that time period that subs were up by 9% and views were up by 10%. And that was all organic, working in collaboration with other teams who are amazing. So you can do a lot with organic. It's not totally dead.
It's interesting because, I know at YouTube Shorts, we do a lot of influencer campaigns, and YouTube Shorts is just incredibly popular. But we've talked about social media platforms, and I appreciate you can't be everywhere all the time. So when you think about social media, but then you also have platforms like, do you work with influencers? Do you tap into Roblox, for example, which I'm sure many people in the room have maybe thought about or considered? What do you think about those platforms? How do you prioritize whether you should be on those platforms or not? Because I know, John, you're doing quite a lot in the Roblox side of things.
Yeah, I have the privilege of running a digital studio with like 18 people, game developers, designers. So it's I say relatively easy. It's not, but I have that facility so that for Stan and Gran, we are going to be spinning up a Roblox experience for that show. I mean, how successful that will be and how much money I need to put behind it to get people to it is a bigger question. But I mean, I don't want to have a big and everyone's talking about Roblox at the moment, and I don't want to have a big ranty rant about Roblox, but I think my worry with Roblox at the moment is a bit like Paddy Power for kids. The dark patterns that, I mean, I've been making games for 20 odd years, and the dark patterns that I see on really, really successful Roblox experiences really sort of terrify me a little bit. You go into a Roblox experience, and these are big ones. This is one for Shrek. You go in for Shrek, and the minute you're on that Roblox experience, it's asking kids to stay for 5 minutes and we'll give you 2 spells. Stay for 3 minutes and we'll give you, some extra swamp puddles. This is sort of stuff that gambling sites do. Like stay for 5 more minutes, and it's like when the fun stops, stop. Unless you're on Roblox, I think at times. So I think as an industry, we need to really think about what good looks like on Roblox, because I think we've all been looking over here, worrying about the industry, and actually that world has grown up without us, and there's some really bad stuff out there. Not awful, terrible, but like just what I know is good, what's good UX, what's good scaffolding, how to get kids into an experience. A lot of that doesn't seem to exist. And what's more frightening is that kids don't seem to care either, which is but yeah.
Yeah, just to chip in on that, like the kids just sort of don't know any better, so they are just doing what that's doing, and that they think it's fine. That's what parenting used to be all about, and people there who knew better, like helping to make these things better. But however, there is a silver lining with Roblox, because I've been talking to a lot of people, and they're like, how do I go onto Roblox? Because it costs £200 million to get on there. Well, actually, it doesn't have to, and it's not a scary dark hole. You can find a way through it, and it's like any other platform. It is a bit like YouTube was a number of years ago, but you can be guided through it, and there are almost some steps that you could take if you've got an IP or some not very much money. You could start with testing and learning on that platform, and you can start with a few grand even, just throwing some UGC on there, finding out if there's an appetite for it, what's already there for your brand, if you've already got a brand out there. And then you could start potentially going into a shop or something like that, or a slightly larger experience. Just throw a few extra K onto there, see what works, and then diversify from there. And then you can start growing. But the idea that you're thinking about this dark hole of Roblox being so expensive, I find that quite sad, because there's so much potential. There's so many eyeballs on there. There's so much potential, and if you can marry it really nicely with YouTube and start to create those synergies between YouTube and Roblox and other platforms, there is something really magical that could happen. And then for younger brands, the co-play element makes it a bit safer and are more able. If you're creating co-play, which parents are increasingly doing on Roblox with their kids, that means that you might have a guided experience for like 4 to 6 year olds even, and there is an increasing amount of audience there. So I think there are some really nice opportunities, as much as it is the Paddy Power for kids. I love that. But yeah.
I kind of disagree with the Paddy Power for kids analogy, to be fair. I think there's like with any user-generated content platform, which is what Roblox is, there are going to be the developers and content on there that isn't fantastic. But then there's a lot of content that is, and I think that's important. If anyone in the room is going to do anything in Roblox, you need to make sure, like you do with your work with any partner, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, you need to be doing your due diligence and making sure that whoever you partner with is going to be safe. So I politely disagree. I mean, you could argue that FIFA is with loot boxes is kind of more encouraging of gambling than Roblox, but I'm not a Robloxian or whatever the term is for a Roblox player. But sorry, Emily, you're about to say something. Or Kat?
Well, just with Roblox, it's something that I guess I'm doing more listening than talking, because it's not something that BBC Studios has kind of launched into yet. It's on our radar, but we have to be really careful with our brand IP, and also be really clear on what we will get back for our investment on particular activities. So yeah, it's not something we've sort of branched into, but in terms of sort of broadening our reach, you mentioned influencers earlier. That is something that we have. We've worked with influencers for Dougie and Bluey, and I think what I would say is there is a trend to move away from the big shiny influencers. It doesn't have to be sort of the big money. We've seen a lot of success of micro influencers who are have a really strong, dedicated, committed following. They're very authentic, and they bring our brands to life in new and exciting ways. Completely zany ways. We've had Hey Doggy made into ravioli by a creator with a massive following on TikTok who, before doing Dougie, made Beyonce in ravioli, and then it was Dougie. But it just meant that we got way more people coming to our channel and discovering Dougie in a surprising new way. And so I think don't rule out influencers, but make sure they're authentic, and the micro influencers with sort of a dedicated following are really can be really good to work with as well.
I think that's where there's that parallel between when people consider Roblox and when they think about influencers, like, I've got to spend all my money, oh God. And actually, like, being creative with micro influencers, but also being creative with the content that you create with them. Like, I think, long gone are the hashtag ad, like, this is this, you need to buy this. Like, obviously, we need to be compliant with hashtag ad, but I think, the storytelling behind it, whether it's like consumer products that support your show, or, if you want to talk about the play schemers in your title and, something playful and kind of encouraging caregivers or wider audiences how they can interact with your title, I think there's a lot more creativity that you can bring into the content as opposed to the please tune in and enjoy my show.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's kind of putting your brand in places that are surprising so that people who haven't sort of seen it on the broadcasters or streamers can sort of actually then see your brand, understand something different about it, and sort of understand it in a new way.
Yeah, it's like that relatability. Like, there's something that we play around with a lot at Think Jam where, as a caregiver, I have a scale of relatability. And I find that there are those moments of like, for the win, I'm having a great parenting day. And I want to see content that really encapsulates that and makes me feel that, and influencers support that. And then there are other influencers who are very much the other end of the scale. If you flip for the win, you get WTF. And those moments as a parent where you're like, oh goodness, I need 5 minutes with a cup of tea. And you have those influencers who kind of support that and are able to put content in a way that's playful, relatable, and authentic for, another caregiver who's having that moment. And you're reaching that audience in an unusual way, but also inspiring them to watch your show.
So when you're putting your IP in different places, so we've talked about Roblox. I mean, you can do activations in Fortnite, for example. There's all influencers, etc. I always wonder, and this came up in our previous conversations, is what's the purpose of that? Are you trying to appease, is it to relate to the target audience of parents and kids? Or are you also thinking about the stakeholders, i.e. the streaming platforms that you could hopefully convince to get a season 2, or you have a really great meeting at BLE, I was going to say BTS, different thing, BLE, with a big toy partner. So how do you, what do you think about that?
Go with that one. I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago that wasn't. You were picking the platforms that you thought resonated with your audience and your demographic. I think that when you go to a brand licensing expo or toy fair and you're having very early discussions about potential licensing and merchandising around your show, one of the first things you get asked now is like, what are your YouTube numbers? What's the, it's because those businesses are very data driven. They want to know the data. So you're sort of stuck in doing this sort of dance between ensuring you've got lots of data and lots of numbers outside of your broadcast window that demonstrate the show's got broad appeal for a toy or for a book, or but plus a second season. I guess if you put your content in the right places for the right reasons and it does well, it kind of answers that question. That question, I guess. But it's always in the back of your mind when you're out at Toy Fair or BLE. They ask you those questions. How's it doing?
Yeah.
And we're in a very, very risk averse market, a very risk averse world. I was at the Skill Builder yesterday, and we had Disney, we had the BBC, and we had Sky on that panel, and all of them, were talking about what they were looking for, very sort of loosely, but most broadcasters are looking at the moment for not for sure bets, but
Yeah.
things that are very like not you know, it's an existing IP. You're able to demonstrate quite clearly there's an audience for that already, whether you've got huge YouTube numbers or it's a book or it's an existing toy or whatever. So all of that sort of where you put your content in the back of your head as a producer or a show creator, it all feeds into that, you know, because you don't just want one season of your show. You want it to run and build it as a brand and become successful. And if it's a brand like mine, where I'm really about trying to get kids to spend more time outside, I want the show to do incredibly well. You know, so it's I don't know if I've answered the question, but
No, that's great.
No, it's-
But
it's you know that's the kind of quagmire and the dilemma that you have to wrestle with all the time.
Yeah, I was just going to support that, absolutely. So I'm working with a couple of people now that they're like, we need to launch a YouTube channel because we need to just prove that it's going to be successful. So, and it's already existing IP, so it's not, you know, it's not growing that isn't going to be that hard, but it's just kind of like such an interesting way to sort of have everything flip on its head. Like, well, let's prove things on these platforms, and then we might get more traction with people who are being careful at the moment. And it will change. Things always change. It's all cyclical. People will come back and we'll start taking risks again, and I'm sure, hopefully, quite soon. But yeah, it's at the moment it's kind of like those platforms are being used for that quite depressing reason. But yeah.
I think the other thing to say is that we're treating broadcasters here like gods, like they're the only place your content can live. Because if you actually do a really good job of putting your content on YouTube, it does incredibly well. You know, do you need a broadcaster?
there's a panel later today. Is it today or tomorrow?
Yeah.
YouTube or bust? So I think
You
maybe
know,
they'll
so
discuss
you know,
that.
or if you've got incredibly
Strong Roblox IP.
yeah, I mean, talking with Rob Doherty this morning about, you know, he's been working with Adopt Me, you know, and he's been trying to help them with, you know, and they've come at it very differently to talk when they're having a broadcaster conversation. They're not saying, please pick me, turn it into a show. They're like, it's like the other way around. We've got millions and millions of kids on our platform. Tell us why we need a show. You know, it's you know.
I kind of because I think, John, you mentioned if you're not on all these platforms, are you leaving money on the table?
Yeah, that's what I worry about. Maybe not money's maybe a crass word, but it's like eyeballs. It's that brand recognition. You know, because we're told constantly that if you're not at every media touch point of this kind of 360-degree digital media flywheel, I think I've ever said that before. But, you know, if you're not at every single one of those touch points, you know, so your child watches your show on Milkshake and leaves and jumps on his iPad, and you haven't got an app, or you're not on rope, you know, there's this kind of like panic and this fear that you're not reaching them at every consumer touch point, and you need to be.
But then saying that, like, because I think about who is it? Stakeholders? Is it target audience? So I think we've talked about the Macy's Day. I don't know if everyone's familiar with Bluey, and you probably can tell it better than I do, obviously, Emily. But you know, I thought it's really interesting about Bluey being in the Macy's Day Parade in the US, and you would assume that was just to maybe appeals US broadcasters potential or whatever it may be. But I guess what was the objective of?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. So the objective for that was to basically make Bluey a household name in the US. So from that perspective, that one stunt got Bluey onto Good Morning America, on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and also then back home in Australia, got Bluey on breakfast TV as well. And they were just blown away that their home spun brand had so much visibility in the US. It's a campaign that basically came about from our team in the US, who were like experts in the market, and really knew that would be a great way to get Bluey across as many people in the US as possible. And it could sort of look like it was sort of a stunt just for stakeholders, but if you look at what we got from social from that stunt, we got so much content for social, and the Bluey team were all here, so shout out to them because they're amazing, and they were there on the ground on the day, putting it all on the socials, and we saw across all our social platforms, followers increased by around 100% for every platform except TikTok, which rose by 300%, wow. And generally, the comments back were the kids absolutely loved seeing this brand that they know so well. They see it every day and watch it every day on the being featured in the Macy's Day Parade, it wasn't just sort of the biggest blockbuster movies. It was a brand that they loved and they knew so well. So it was these two worlds colliding, the adults' world and the kids' world, in one place. And when that happens, fans just go wild. And it was an interesting one as well from a global perspective, because in the UK and in Australia, like Macy's Day Parade, we kind of know about it roughly, but not so much. So the team had to do a bit of education there as well, and got the fans talking about it on social, which we've always found has worked really well for our Bluey fans. And so I think it was kind of, obviously it doesn't hurt having that on a deck for stakeholders and for other discussions for the business, but it was backed up with how it works, and I think it's something that it's not easy to get a balloon in the Macy's Day Parade, and I think it shows like how when you partner with someone like BBC Studios who has that reach, has those experts in the market that can actually get you that access, that obviously really helps a lot as well.
The knock-on effect of that as well, like, is so not just stakeholders, because as a chilly myself, I think, that as a fan, like, they were then seeing the brand that they love, they could then evangelize in their own networks. I mean, I was so seated for the Sign premiere, like a month before. I was so ready for it because everyone was buzzing, they were so excited. And seeing the brand you love in such a huge PR moment, like, it gives you that kind of solid ground as a fan to be able to go out and be an evangelist, and you're kind of, getting that fandom audience to do it for you as well, which is kind of a perfect circle moment.
I'm definitely, for me, Muffin's my favourite character. By far, like, no
Not
doubt.
alone.
Muffin's by far my favourite. So that's really cool. But what are, like, let's say it's slightly less exciting. I guess what's like the underrated tools that people in the room can take away? Something that may not be talked about as much or may not be making the headlines. Is there anything underrated, or any tips that you could give the audience today?
I do. I have one, and it's tried and tested. It's around sort of passion, really. But so if you're creating a preschool brand or a kids brand, then somewhere in that show there is a kernel and a purpose for what it might be teaching them kids phonics, eating vegetables, brushing their teeth. For my show, it's about trying to get kids outside and really, really appreciate the wonder and magic of wildlife. So that's my sort of singular purpose. Now, I can reach out to lots and lots of organisations and people that share that same purpose and that same passion that I have. And if I can connect with those people and I can tell them what my case for action is, what it is I'm trying to do, and they share that vision, then they're probably going to they probably would like to work with me or help me achieve my goal. So I just produce and I make one bold request of them, which is, will you work with me? And then we discuss how that might happen. So that might open up a world of newsletters. That might open up a world of YouTube. They might have a YouTube channel. They may have influencers. They may have a great TikTok channel they're already running. They may have a schools program. So partnering with people who really, really care passionately about what you care passionately about is super cheap. It's just calls on Zoom and Teams. You connect, and then you share, and you put together, and it might be an educational pack that you've got, and you might be able to give them that. It might be clips from the show. These are things that are easy wins, are things that you can quite easily give up. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of pounds on TikTok or Instagram. They will do that for you if they care passionately about what it is that you're trying to do. So that's what I found success doing. And I would say that when I'm not in voiceovers or looking at art or running Jollywise, I'm on phone calls talking to people like the World Wildlife Fund or Frank Water or a charity that's talking about clean water. Just trying to connect and connect and connect. Because everyone you connect to will connect you to two other people who care as deeply as they do about something, and you build this network effect. And I don't want to sound like we're building a movement here, guys, but I'm just saying it's just it's just a very, very efficient way of being able to get your show out to the people that will care about it and will love it and embrace it and promote it for you. That would be my that would be my tip. That's what we're trying to do.
I think there's a digital arm to that, right? So like if you have a social channel for your title, and you invest time in your community management, thinking off channel as well, and thinking about those kind of niche elements of your brand. So if you're a bird show, be the best bird people possible. Go connect with the bird pages that might be on your channel as well, and forge those relationships and conversations. Like, it pays dividends. And sometimes think outside the box. I mean, just last week I had Paddington and Gymshark having a conversation, which was something I did not think would happen, but I think it's good fun, and it's also something that I think you get more reach from that in a way that's authentic still to your brand.
What was your little tagline, Kat? What did you call it? Is it niche for reach?
Niche for the reach.
Niche for the reach.
That
there you
is
go.
definitely the way forward.
Write that down, everyone.
Oh yeah.
Me and Emily concurred on this one, so I'll bring her into this as well. Good old search, like Google, SEO, websites. Kids still search for games in their droves and search for things, playful things to do. And so don't underestimate that. It's not old-fashioned or a dirty word or something that's not there anymore. God, there's so much else to be there for. But there's some nodding heads. I like that. But yeah, good old, put some money behind that and do the right thing, get the right kind of juice flowing. I remember, working years ago with Newsround on their SEO strategy and changing titles and keywords, and absolutely incredible how much of a difference it made in terms of reach. It went from, I think it sort of doubled in reach or something like that. But, and it was just being really careful. And that was actually organically. There was no pay, but it's just... It really did make such a huge difference. So, yeah, flying the flag for that.
Yeah, I agree. So I think an underrated hero for me would be websites. And shout out to the team as well. We just revamped the Blue website and the Hey Doggy website. And I think seeing the fantastic traffic to the sites since we did has just been phenomenal. Adding character pages, so knowing the brand and knowing what people are looking for, and just sort of adding more content, crafts, stuff that people can download. It's like a central hub for parents to access and get to know your brand a bit better, understand the characters, etc. So it's a place where you can really build out a fan experience, and I wouldn't recommend doing it before you sort of launch and get that fandom rolling, but like once you do, it's really, really good to have like a destination for people to go to and access content that you're making for them. With Hey Doggy, the recent launch we've had, we added character pages, episode pages, and just gave it a bit of a zhuzh generally, and we've seen page views go up by 138%. And the average number of pages visited per session is 7, which we're really proud of, because I think anything above 2 is kind of a success. So it shows that when people are there, I was really surprised by it, because it's, parents aren't known for having stacks of time, and kids, their time is erratic, you cannot predict it. So the fact that they're sort of looking and delving in the content and really sort of spending time with us, learning more about the brand, it's really nice to see.
You've made the wayfinding for it is really nicely as well. So I think like with the broadcast channel, like the Clubhouse for Hey Duggie, and then like the walkthroughs on TikTok, like these things I think get overlooked sometimes. So that, building the journey of the ecosystem is so nice to see there. And I think that's a step that so often gets overlooked, like the handhold from here to there, and how that feeds in.
Well, I mean, a good website feeds into search end of, if you've got a really good, well thought out website, Google sort of doesn't really, it kind of ignores metadata and all that these days. It reads pages and it looks at what's on there, and it ranks high value content. It just, and if you've got a really great website, which by the way, if you've not been to the Bluey website, is an absolute joy. It really is a beautiful thing. It's like one of those things that you look at and go, damn, I wish I'd made that. Really, really good, really beautiful thing.
And before we all open up for questions, I hope everyone's got some really juicy questions. But before we do that, the challenge, £10,000, you need to promote a show. What do you do? I'm going to go all the way down the end and start with you, Kat.
I think I've already said it, but niche for the reach. I definitely would invest in really thinking about my tone of voice and my kind of community building really early on. Like we said, if you haven't already started doing it and you already made your show, possibly a little late, but really doubling down and thinking differently with that. I mean, I didn't think that I'd make Papa Smurf the new daddy of TikTok.
And then Pascal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Papa all the way, not Pedro. And I think, playing with that and really doubling down on that has helped us access FYP, has given us really great organic growth. And I think, that's where I'd spend my 10K.
I would spend it on producing a raft of like educational resources. You can give away. Get a really good design team, craft some really lovely stuff around the core focus of what your show is, so that when you have these conversations with people, you've got stuff to kind of give away for free to those people. So that you're offering them something. I think if you can do a really great job of that, I think you bring people along with you. So I would almost like, what's my kind of partner outreach toolkit? I'd spend 10 grand on that. That's what I'd spend it on.
I think for me, the ultimate goal would be to get as many eyeballs on your content as possible, get as many people sampling, getting to know your show, getting to see it and understanding it. And I think the best place to do that, if you only have 10K and you've got to really sort of get it really streamlined, would probably be YouTube Kids. Put your content on there, long form, full eps if you can, YouTube Shorts for that sort of organic traction as well. And then make sure you've got a really robust content plan for when the money runs out. So organically, you can keep those viewers returning to you, coming back for more content, and understanding what your brand's about.
So it's quite similar. And I know we're going to go on to Emily's thoughts as well, but I've been sort of looking at like a firework effect almost. So you've got that long kind of content plan that you amend and change because you're testing and learning as you go, but then you've got a firework effect. So at launch or what it depends on what the thing is. If it's a campaign or a show or a launch or it's just something you want to rebuild. You've got some IP. It depends on what it is. However, if you get everything lined up in the right way, with the right tone of voice, with the right kind of messages, and then explode over a short period of time, almost disrupt your own calendar, and then just go absolutely wild. But yeah, I'd agree completely. It's about just spend your money mostly on YouTube. That's probably
And I'm going to read out Emily because unfortunately her voice is gone, so I will read out hers out. And I agree with most of it, to be fair, because we've done similar campaigns. My 10K would 100% go to YouTube, laser target the launch day / weekend of your show, and spread spend across a few different assets, including the trailer and a full episode, plus other organic style content like a juicy scene lift or a music video. I hope I'm giving you justice, Emily, on this. If you have one. Optimize budget amongst which videos are working best. It's not all about CPM. View length is really key. So I would say, because often when we talk to our clients, they kind of assume, this would do best, or this asset would do best, or surely this one would do best. And I always say you've got to optimize to how the audience is reacting and figure out what your KPI is and optimize towards that. So brilliant. I think we've nailed the time in here. So love to open the floor to any questions. Oh, brilliant. We already got one. That's great.
Thank you. Oh, hello. I have a question for Kat, and that's not me playing favourites because I have worked with all the lovely 4 panellists at different points over the years. But just given the breadth of clients that you work across at Think Jam, I'd be really interested to hear where you've seen the best use of influencers. Is it in those shorter focus bursts, or should brands be working on building out like longer term ambassadorships with more micro influencers?
We do both, and I do think there's value in both, and I think it depends on what the title is. So not the exact answer you want, but I think, for example, if you have got a franchise that is established and is moving, we did a full ambassador program for the Hunger Games, a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It was a global ambassadorship, 22 creators from across the world. Some were already kind of super fans and some were, kind of experts in their field also. But we cultivated that as an ambassador program as part of a theatrical launch. That worked there. I do think there's so much value, particularly around things like CP, for kind of micro-influencer campaigns. I think also there's the benefit of regionality as well. So I work with Peanuts team on EMEA. And so, working with regional influencers on content that works for caregivers in that territory as well. And also not necessarily just caregivers either. So I think, standalone campaigns do work. Ambassador programs do work, and I think there's no one size fits all, and it really does depend on the title. But great question, thank you.
I would say with influence as well, you should look at, because what we see of our research is that a lot of parents and kids watch the same influencer content now. So if you can tap into the right talent, you're going to engage both the families and the kids, whether that's micro or macro. So and I think what you said, niche about reach, you need to think about, okay, what's relevant? How can you be part of that ecosystem of a family now? And you have to think influencers now, and influencer video has now become a core part of the ecosystem of families now. Families now are spending, they could be spending time watching YouTube on their connected TV at home, and they're watching long form influencer videos, or they're watching it on short form as well. So it's thinking about that as well, not just micro macro, but who are the talent and who's their target audience. Has anyone got any other thoughts about the influencer?
I've got another one, sorry, just to be really annoying. I wanted to add a point. I think where we're seeing the trend for co-viewing as well, you were saying that if it appeals to the parents or caregivers and appeals to kids, I think inspiring those moments of play outside the screen, I think you can have so much fun with that. We've done that before with a couple of play schemas. We've even used creators in paid ads as well. So we did this really fun thing with Teletubbies where we were leaning into play schemas like Lala chasing her ball and then one of our micro-influencers chasing their ball side by side. You're inspiring the caregiver to play, and it's such a kind of lovely moment. It's doubling down on the education.
We've started to do that. Well, we've taken influencer video and then we've used that as advertising formats, and vast majority of the time an influencer video performs better than a normal TVC or normal production quality because it resonates strongly, it's different, it's impactful. So yeah, that's really interesting. Has anyone else got any questions? I did see someone. Oh, there we go. Oh.
So as you guys were talking about briefly, it's also tapping into games on the game side for younger children, and also like Roblox and how like creating an interactive user interface. So I'm got my own content and I've got a background in games design. So I've also been trying to go down that route, but instead of Roblox, I've been going down more like a niche kind of game. And instead of it being like an interactive thing, it kind of adds more to the actual content story. So I wonder what your like viewpoint on that is. Instead of making, I don't know, like an interactive thing, it actually adds into the actual media story, or kind of an expansion to the story of the series that you like want to promote.
Are you talking about sort of? Sounds a little bit like you're talking about, rather than just it being a game, like there's actually sort of narrative to it. Is that the question?
Kind of. So like as you have like a book on the side, it's kind of like its own storybook from that cartoon, and then you also have like a game, which is also kind of its own narrative in a way, and it's also kind of like interactive content for young people to kind of play with on the side. So I'm just curious about that.
Where would if I was a young person? I mean, I think I'm young, but if I'm a younger person, how would I find out about the game? Where would I see it? I'm just trying to
on the web, or
I think it's more like you'd promote it as well, like on socials on the side. So I think a game that I'm kind of thinking of is in the sense like it's something that people can interact with and play with, whilst the show is kind of, I don't know, it's still in production. So it's kind of like extra media that like people can tap into and kind of get an idea or like a sense of.
I think it's worth thinking about where it will be served, and where will I see it, and then does it make sense to be in that platform? So whether it's a social media feed or whether it's a mobile game or an ad unit, you need to think, or an app of some kind. You need to think about, okay, how is it being used, and how does it already resonate with the audience? I think it's quite important. So it's worth, because you can do really cool standout things in mobile game ads, like interactive games.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that can work really well, especially if you've got a new IP and trying to drive kids to understand the story or the character, but it's just thinking about what is that environment and what is the user behavior already there, and then optimize towards that.
No, that's a really good point.
That's helped.
I saw a stat that if you've got an interactive ad, so you play a tiny bit of the game, especially the younger audience, you're like a fifth or 1 in 5 more likely. Well, that's not even a stat, is it? You're more
25% more likely?
You are more likely to click through to it and then go and play it rather than just a static ad or no ad at all. So that might be a good thing to do. But yeah, choose where you're going to go. Don't be afraid to just try it out as a mobile game. But yeah, just be careful how you're promoting it from social media.
Yeah.
It is a difficult thing to do, to sell a game like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Elisa Vega from Folivery International. It's a distribution company. So thank you so much for all this information. I have some projects I represent that will become series, and I want to do a plan for their launch and make sure I can reach the audience where they will be and bring the appropriate content in each platform, or social media for the caregivers and the kids. How can I know which is the best content in each platform? So you mentioned the YouTube Shorts are working very well. So what the caregivers or the kids want to see in a YouTube Short formats? How can I know what's working now? Is there data or some place I can find that information? And my second question is where I can find these micro influencers and regional influencers. Where do I know which? How can I know which one is in Latin America or Southeast Asia? This micro influencer.
Okay, cool. So for the first question, actually keep the mic because I got a question for you. What age range? What age range is your brand for?
Well, I have some, but like 2 I have in mind. One is a preschool show, 3 to 5, and that has already a book existing, and the other one is a 6 to 9 series, and it's a comic book IP originally.
Great, brilliant. So YouTube Shorts, the way you can leverage that for both those brands, so for the 3 to 5, that will just showcase what the content is about. So you choose funny moments, key moments from the show, any slapstick, any humor, any great music. Banging tracks are great for this kind of thing, but it's all under a minute, so it's super quick. Pick those key moments that sort of really encapsulate what the show is about for 3 to 5s, and then the 6 to 9, you can do something really interesting with YouTube Shorts. It's been used by sort of older skewing kids instead of TikTok because it's in that sort of safe YouTube Kids environment. So you can actually do some sort of TikTok style content with your brand to kind of build out the show and make it really resonate with that 6 to 9 audience, which I think is quite a tricky one to get content to resonate with. So you could do something a bit cooler there. And then your other question about influencers, I would say look at where your target regions are. Where do you want to be growing fans? Where do you want to get your content out? You mentioned sort of different regions. If it's, say, US or if it's sort of particular areas in Latin America or whatever, like look and see where those regions are. And then you can pick your influencers who are really engaging those audiences in those regions. And think totally outside the box, as Kat said earlier. Sort of think zany, think fun, think micro and authentic. Niche for the win. Oh no, niche for the reach.
Niche for the reach.
Sorry.
So I've just realised we've got one more question left. So someone, because we've got a big flashing red light that's looking at me right now.
I understood. I really enjoyed the question. if you had 10 grand as a small indie studio runner, I thought that was brilliant because we don't have these huge distribution sort of budgets to deal with. But I understood both of your answers, where that money's going. But how are we spending 10 grand on YouTube Kids? Could you kind of extrapolate on that a little bit? Or is that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. So basically, the way you spend on YouTube Kids works is you can target specific people essentially, and you don't need to create any new content. It's not like social where you have to create like an ad format and then that gets served out. It will just find the highest performing content of your channel, the best of your content, and it will put that in front of those people. And then you can then generate earned views from that. So you can see from this paid view that we have, people have gone on to see 3 more pieces of content on your channel, maybe, so you can then see how that has performed. So that's kind of generally how that works. Does that answer your question?
I would also say that don't just think YouTube Kids. Think about the main YouTube platform, because as kids get older, they don't want to be on YouTube Kids anymore. Nursery Rhymes, Moonbug, Cocomelon, it's phenomenal when you're young, but when you get older, they want to watch gaming, they want to watch sports. So I think it's when, we do a lot of YouTube campaigns, and so it's about indexing on the right channels that are brand safe, that are kid safe, and then optimized towards the best performing channels. So that's how you can run YouTube campaigns, which I could spend hours talking about it. But in essence, you need to think about how you can target the most relevant content on YouTube. And you can spend 10K really effectively on platforms like YouTube. Well, thank you so much for everyone joining us. Thank you. Thank you to my panelists, more importantly.